Need financing for a vehicle or financial assistance with late auto payments? Don't have the money to your rent or mortgage? Need financial help with utilities? And also, would you want to receive cash back rewards for paying bills? Visit our friends at financialservicessolutions.com, where you can get an array of packages that will fit your needs, from monthly investments to virtual wallet accounts. You get debit cards, you get an array of services, and you can pick between 4 different packages. Visit our friends at financialservicessolutions.com today. Well, the Democrats are concerned, ladies and gentlemen, about black men. Black men for a while have been very angry with the Democrat Party. But the reason why the black men are angry with the Democrat Party, because it has nothing to offer black men. It has nothing to offer in the area of forward mobility of black men, because this party always want to benefit low income social programs, and not, the black men that's out here that's either trying to get to the point where there are 6 and 7 figure earners. They're not trying to benefit black men who are business owners, black men that, look, we've been dealing with racism, white supremacy for a long time in this country, and we get it, right? But we can't let that consume who we are. And we see, just like the preacher in the church, we see the game with the Democrat Party and the preacher. It's all game. And if you notice, which I know a lot of this is starting to change with a lot of our sisters, of course, but if you notice who's still in the church house, a lot of sisters are in the church house. A lot of black men have abandoned that. If you look at now the Democrat Party, a lot of black men are abandoning that. And, you still have a lot of sisters that are strong, pro-Democrat. Well, there was an article that came out in the LA Times, and, I want to give a shout out definitely to Sister Demetria. She, made sure to send me this article that actually came out a few days ago. And it talked about the mayor race in Los Angeles when you had Representative Karen Bass. She used to be the head of the CBC, which means she didn't do nothing for black people. Let's call it what it is. And she's running against another guy for mayor named Rick Caruso. He used to be a Republican. Now he switched over to Democrat. Now, this is what I say about that. He's probably still a Republican, but he had to run as a Democrat because in California, you're just not going to be able to win anything running as a Republican unless you running for something locally like in Orange County or places like that, or the outside of the major cities. Because I know once you get outside the major cities, that's Republicans actually outside those major cities still. But so they wrote this whole article on black men. Now let's go through this. I have a few. One video I think y'all would probably find very interesting from Steve Bannon and what he says about black men. But they were saying that this is written by this woman by the name of Erica D. Smith. And Erica here, which I don't know who Erica is, but okay, I've seen her write before. I'm just kind of looking at her picture. I noticed her. All right. So she starts to write that she had missed the first sign in the LA mayor candidate, Representative Karen Bass, may have some trouble hanging on to some black support from the brothers. Now, they said it came in the middle of May, they say, when Snoop Dogg decided to reach out to her opponent and say the billionaire developer and former Republican Rick Caruso and offer up his endorsement. You say he told him, "You got my support." You say over Zoom. You say TV, news cameras, document exchange. You say we're part of whatever you're part of. As far as bringing love to the community, you say a few days later there was another sign. You say she missed too. Clarence Avant. They say the revered music industry mogul who introduced then Senator Barack Obama to Southern California's political and entertainment circles also endorsed Caruso. Now, that brother had lost his 91-year-old wife, Jacqueline, when she was, murdered by, some Pookie and Ray Rays in their Beverly Hills home. At the time, Caruso said he was humbled and grateful to receive his support. He said weeks later, she says, it's now clear that these two black men have plenty of company. It's a new poll of likely voters conducted by UC Berkeley Institute of Government Studies and sponsored by the LA Times found that roughly half of black men plan to vote for Caruso in the primary. And Caruso was definitely right on her bumper, and they have to have another election actually in November, because the way they work, if the person that get, I guess, 50% of the votes, I mean, they'll become the mayor. But if it's not 50% and you got a person right there, then they have to have another election in November. So that's what happened. So she said it was somewhat surprising as a black woman, more than a little mystifying, given the years Bad spent working with the black and Latino neighborhoods in Southern LA. Okay, see, when you start talking about black and, you're not talking to me at that point. I want y'all to get in the process of the moment you hear black and anything, I don't care what it is, black and Latino, black and brown, black and LGBT, black and Asian, anything and. Because when you saying and, I'm not being prioritized at that point. We know when they include and, the other is being prioritized over us, and they're using us to piggyback off of our struggle, our hurt, and our pain. You understand? When you hear the word minorities, you need to be turned off. When you hear the words people of color, you need to be turned off. When you hear distressed communities, urban communities, poor people, because that includes everybody, right? Always be turned off by that. And you need to be vocal about that, because we can change the language of what these people speak in the media, and we can change the language of what these people are saying online as well. We have done it many, many times. Remember, we the ones stopped them calling black people thugs on TV constantly. We did that because we said that the word thug is being replaced for the N-word. Notice they don't say that no more, like talking about. They don't say that at all. Everybody else killed by the police, everybody a thug, dude straight laced, and never been in trouble, but he a thug. So once we exposed that, they had to stop. So same thing with this, people of color, minorities, black and this, black and that, black and LGBT. No, we're never going to accept that. Now, she continued to say she was serving as one of two black members of the city congressional delegation. Now, I say, of course, it's not written in stone somewhere that all black people must vote for black candidates. So plenty of black men and women surely support Caruso for their own sound policies, maybe even Snoop Dogg, clearly Clarence Avant. She says, we're not a monolith. After all, just look at Larry Elder. I don't know why he was brought up in this. Okay. It said, but in this liberal city, in this very liberal state, it's also true that Caruso is the most conservative candidate running for mayor, and that many of his proposals, though responding to genuine problems and anger, run counter of what most black Angelinos have long said they wanted. Is that Caruso, it said, for example, favors the return of some disastrous, tough on crime strategies in the past, locking up more people and moving away from criminal justice reform. So he wants to add 1,500 officers to the LAPD, and that's been endorsed by former LAPD chief William Bratton. He said he of broken windows policy infamy. Is that homelessness? Caruso wants to quickly clear a lot of encampments which black men disproportionately occupy thanks to a decade of systemic housing discrimination. No, black people are on the street not because of housing. It's because of black people being shut out of the economy. California is so freaking high that what I was told, and by me going to LA for sure, I believe this. If you're not making $200,000 a year, don't live in LA. And the people that's not making that, of course you're going to end up on the street. And black people are going to suffer the most out of every group. And we know why. This is why reparations is very, very important for black people. Black people represent, more than half of the homeless population in LA. And let me tell you something. You talking about homelessness. I went to LA last year. My wife had to have a class. Okay. It is ridiculous, y'all. Listen, I've seen places where you got homeless people, but they are everywhere. In places that you wouldn't even think they'd be at, they're there. And then they have mental health issues too. So my family, we riding in the street, and they had this sister just walking in the street. She stops in front of the vehicle and she just cussing and going off. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Like, I'm just at the stop sign. And then she's walking off, still cussing and talking to herself. There was another one. We went into a restaurant. I talked about this. And he's sitting up there cussing and fussing. And I'm like, what's going on with this dude? He's in a wheelchair. And he's homeless. And y'all, he's cussing and fussing a Coca-Cola can out. And I'm like, what? And my wife looked at me. I said, man, get them kids, go over here. This dude is going off on a Coca-Cola can. You knew what you was doing. Why did you do that? And I'm looking at the Coca-Cola can and I'm looking at him like, no, man. It's like, no, they got to do something about that. Downtown LA is horrible. Listen, I think the last time I had went prior to that was 2018 when I went to Politicon. And they had homeless people downtown LA, yes. But it had literally quadrupled from what the last time I saw it. I mean, it like I said, it smells. No, they got to do something about that. You can't just be using so-called racism on this. And I know racism exists, but there's people of all races I saw homeless. I want to make sure I put that up there too. We was going to the beach area in Santa Monica, and I'm just kind of standing there checking my phone, and I didn't see this dude. And my wife grabbed me and moved me. I said, "What you doing?" He said, "That dude just standing there, and he looked like he was gonna do something. He crazy." And then I looked at him and I see he was homeless too. I mean, they are like these cats are everywhere. No, they got to do something about that. Now the crime's off the chain right now. The crime is off the chain. They got to do something about the crime too. You can't just let all this stuff that's going on and not do anything. You can't. Now, what's contributing to a lot of crime is the inflation, high gas prices. The more people suffering economically, the more crime you're going to have, right? But you got to have some sort of law and order in every society. And America right now, like I said, is off the chain with the crime. So I don't really want to hear all that right now. And a lot of black people, from what they had polled, black people want law and order too, but we just don't want white supremacist race soldiers just targeting us when you got everybody committing crime. What the race soldiers go do is go target a brother for jaywalking instead of going and get the real people that's committing the crimes out here. They'll let Pookie and Ray Ray run wild in the neighborhoods, but you go target some unarmed brother that's jaywalking. See, that's the issue that we have with the police. We didn't say we have an issue with him going to get Pookie and Ray Ray out the neighborhood. No. We say lead the unarmed people along traffic stops. That's the sort of thing we talking about. Now, continuing, she says that he made some big promises to build more shelters and housing, both of which are easier said than done. But if encampments are cleared when there aren't enough beds available, he has the legally to suggest moving some homeless people into tent camps, modeled after one built to house undocumented migrant children in Texas. They compared that with Bass, whose proposals on public safety and homelessness are less extreme, but far more realistic, sophisticated, and considered of poor people. Here we go, poor people of color. Just want to make sure what they're including here. They say, indeed, that's why many political observers assume she would have the backing of most black voters in L.A. if she ran for mayor. Instead, despite strong, consistent support for black women, the poll found an erosion among black voters overall, led by men. So she asked a question. She said, is it sexism or perhaps a related desire to uphold the patriarchy, given that Bass would be the first woman to be mayor of L.A.? See, when black men have their concerns, everything is related to your gender. No, black men don't care about that. Most black men today grew up in single-parent households led by women. Black men today don't really have a problem with women leading anything when they grew up with a single mother. So y'all need to stop that lie. Now, when it comes to white men, they have a big issue with women leading something. Well, black men don't have that issue, not as a collective. She says that she believes it has something to do with what she's calling the Ice Cube effect. She said if you recall, shortly before the 2020 presidential election, he said Los Angeles rapper helped draft a progressive plan for Black America. He tried to get the Biden-Harris campaign to adopt it and was told to wait. And saying so driven by good intentions and hubris, he talked with the Trump administration officials about the plan instead, drawing an avalanche of criticism, especially from black women, and say appalled that he would even consider working with them. And say Ice Cube explained that although he hadn't paid attention to politics in a long time, he acted because Democrats weren't doing anything to help black men and therefore didn't deserve any loyalty for votes if Republicans were willing to do better. See, that's where this chick just lied in this LA Times. Ice Cube not once prioritized black men. He said black America. He said black people. Because when that, Vivica Fox, and y'all, those of you who know how I feel about her, try to say, well, I know it's a contract of black America. What about it? But what about black women? He said, black women are part of black America? Why do I need a separate part for them when we all in the same problem? Correct. We are. Right. So that chick is lying in this article. LA Times, shame on you, but y'all lie every day. She said every side is the dark side for us here in America. He put at the Times, said they're all the same until something changes. They all lie. They all cheat. She said, I heard the same logic when I went to Leimert Park over the weekend trying to understand the apparent lagging support for Baz. She said that she was hoping to talk to black men who plan to cast their ballots for Caruso. Instead, I found a bunch of irritated Baz voters who nevertheless understood why their fellow black men would do such a thing. He said, they told me black men are disillusioned and fed up with the status quo. They don't believe another politician can fix anything in Los Angeles, so why not give Caruso a shot? Right. They said some black men, they said, are naive about the complexity. Oh, okay, so black men are dumb. That was she writing. About the complexity of city politics, don't understand that Caruso's promises on homelessness and the economy won't be easy or quick to implement if they can at all. He said other black men said they seen the ads on TV and Instagram, part of Caruso's multi-million-dollar advertising blitz. And they said don't know about his history on the L.A. Board of Police Commissioners or that he wants to add cops to the LAPD. Then they were saying black men can be sexist too. They admitted some see Baz as sweet and soft, not hard enough to be mayor, like a shrewd, wealthy developer steeped in deal making. As one political insider put it, we're going to vote for her. He said because she's a nice lady. Yeah, that's a good thing to say, right? They said then there were other black men. She said she met who are completely disengaged from politics to the point of not knowing there's an election even happening, much less of who is on the ballot. Okay? So they just want to know. And they go on and on and on and on here about why black men not voting for the Democrat Party. Black men, what are you doing? You vote against your own interests. But, this thing gets even better. So on Twitter, they have this female here named Lori Granito. Okay, she's talking about the article. Now listen what she says here. The article on black men in L.A. not voting for Karen Bass, the Ice Cube, and now Uncle Luke and other hoteps becoming more vocal. It shows we're part of a concerted effort by white supremacists to use black men to vote against their own interests and that of their own community, or their own, I guess their communities, all by design. Well, let Laurie, let's go with what you just said. Let's say all of that is true. White supremacists are using black men to vote. You know how the only reason white supremacists could allegedly do this? Because y'all wasn't doing nothing for black men whatsoever, the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party only benefits or have benefited single mothers. Let's call it what it is. It didn't really benefit the rank and file black woman. It doesn't. Black, if you're not on a social program, living in poverty, if you're not a single mother, talking about programs and child care and all that stuff, it doesn't benefit you. Well, what does it really benefit? Definitely as black men. Now, this woman here that wrote that, I see they put a picture out of her. She, with her husband and all that. Now, you see all these different flags that she got as a black woman. That's interesting. She got the Ukraine, she got the trans flag, she got the LGBT, and then she's going to have a fist on it, okay? So I think all that's interesting, all them flags that you support. So when you see too many of that going on, I know you really don't support the community like talking about. You support the rank and file. But I want y'all to hear a video from Steve Bannon real quick. Now, Steve Bannon, he was one of the architects of helping get the alt-right mainstream. He also was a strategist for Donald Trump. I want you to hear what Steve Bannon has to say about black men.
African-American males are also another central part of our coalition. And you wait, we're going to get 50% of that vote in 2022. 50%. And once we do that, we have a governing coalition that's right in front of us, right there in front of us, that can govern for 100 years.
So why does Steve Bannon say that about black men? Why? Why do he feel that the Republican Party is going to have this massive increase of black male voters? I'll tell you why. I want to get to it. It's not gender. No. Because once again, black men are used to women leading. A lot of them come from single parent households. So that's not an issue. The issues that black men are having and why some of them may vote Caruso, or why some of them may say, I'm going to do a protest vote to spite the Democrats. Or some black men may say, I'm going to sit this crap out. The reason why you're seeing this is because, one, black men do not benefit from illegal immigration. The Democrat Party is pro-illegal immigration. They got a migrant caravan, another one, sitting there just waiting to get into this country. And black men know that the more you bring in this cheap labor, those who are dependent on certain labor are not going to get the jobs, because you have a whole racket in this country that's illegal. OK, hiring illegal immigrants is illegal. It's a federal crime. And you notice that these white business owners aren't going to jail for breaking federal law. But let me and you do it. Let us start hiring illegal people that came across from the Caribbean or from Africa or whatever. Our behinds be locked up. We be locked up real quick. We can't get away with that at all. Although look at the different Asian massage parlors be having all them illegal people in there tricking. They do that mess all the time in the open. And it's rare if they even get busted. And they so cold with it, they get busted. They just open, then they shut them down. They just go open up a new one like it ain't nothing. That's how cold they are with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody doing wrong, and it's never stopped. So black men do not benefit. Let me tell you something else. Some people may, because they use that argument. Well, they go and get jobs that y'all don't want. There's a guy I know personally. He's white. He owned a construction company. Millionaire guy. He told me to my face that his company would hire illegal immigrants because they can pay them less. Now, we're not talking about no McDonald's job. We're not talking about jobs at the grocery store. We're talking about welders. We're talking about pipe fitters. We're talking about fabricators. Things like that. Jobs that's good, high-paying jobs. And they're going to people like that. And this guy I'm talking about is white. And he was doing it. And he had no fear of getting locked up by the federal government for hiring them. You understand what I'm saying? It's all a racket. All of it is. It's all illegal, what they're doing. Because this country never wants to pay for labor. So they know they got to pay us, but they don't have to pay them. So there you go. So they bring it, because everybody keep asking, okay, why all these men come in here? If wouldn't it be more women and children? Why all these men, young men too? Young men. No one ever asked that question. It's more young men trying to get in here than the women. Okay, so illegal immigration doesn't benefit black men whatsoever. Social programs don't benefit black men because we can't even get them. We can't get food stamps like talking about. We can't get the Section 8 home housing. Black men get in financial trouble. We don't get nothing. You'll be on the street. Now, if you're a woman, you can get that stuff because they're going to sympathize with you. But men, no. A woman have a kid, she definitely secure. That's all she got to do, have a kid, and she's on social programs to whenever she want to get off of it, or she want to live her whole freaking life on social programs, she can do that. Men, it don't matter if you got a kid. You on the streets. So the social programs that the Democrat Party are always pushing doesn't benefit black men. Number 3, the Democrats believe in heavy taxation. Now, if you work in a job, heavy taxation doesn't mean nothing to you, right? But there's a lot of black men that have businesses, or even if they're small businesses. And when you in this country is pro-business, always have been. You get more benefits having a business than you do having a job. You will make more money as a business owner down the line than you will working for anybody in America. So when you file your taxes, and when they talk about raising taxes, these Democrats, and they say, oh, they're not paying their fair share. Corporations, your big corporations like your Walmarts, your Targets, etc. On their team, they got a team of tax attorneys that look for loopholes so they don't pay no money in taxes. Your average small business owner, whether it's black or male or black woman in our community, we're not at the stage yet that we can have a team of tax attorneys combing through the tax code, looking for loopholes and telling us what to do so we don't even pay taxes. So when they raise these taxes, it hurts the small business owner in our community. How is that helping the small business owner? When the brunt of those taxes that the Democrats want to raise hurts them. And definitely talking about black men, right? Another thing, the Democrats don't push any kind of special business grants or loans at all. They'll push none because they have so much focus on social programs, right? A lot of black men want to do well. I have not met one black man in the street that told me he want to be poor all his freaking life. Every black man I meet want to get to a good living standard where they can support their family on their own without even the help of their woman. A lot of black men want that. And that's their goals. But the Democrat Party don't offer that. Now, you look at somebody like Caruso or you look at somebody like, they talking about even, why some black men like Trump, right? Even though Trump has his issues. But Trump had lowered the tax rate down, I think, to 21%. That was a benefit for black men and women that have small business. It was a big benefit that he did that. The Democrats are talking about trying to raise taxes back up instead of just fixing the economy for what it is. A lot of black men are sick and tired of the game. It's like, for instance, black men are only good for when you can get a bag out of them, i.e. George Floyd, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, all these different brothers that died. You notice everybody getting the bag. Look at that Black Lives Matter situation. Right there. Everybody getting the bag. But when black men are alive, they can't even get no help, no support, no anything from this Democrat Party. Now, I'm not saying the Republican Party is going to go around here helping black people out, but what I'm saying is there are some things that Republicans do push that benefit black men. And those, if you notice, more successful black men, whether they upfront with it or not, a lot of them are really cool on Republican ideology, not outside of the cop worship and the racism. Let me tell you something. More black men will actually be Republican. They get rid of the cop worship and the racism, and they stop being stupid about the gun situation, because something they real stupid about that. Real stupid. Because like I said, I don't think no AR, nobody need to own an AR-15, but, they talking about raising the age to 21 right now. Which, like I said, if I had to be president, I'll just put the AR-15 in class 3 status, and that'd be the end of it. And I was like, you can buy the 18 and you can afford a $10,000 license, and most people can't afford a $10,000 license. And then you heavily scrutinize to get that license anyway. But black men, we already ahead of the curve. We was ahead of the curve on the church. We're ahead of the curve now in the Democrat Party. And a lot of the women have been waking up to this. Once again, it has nothing to do with no gender. Because black men, like I said, grew up in single-parent households, a lot of them. Now, about 80% of our children are born in single-parent households. So that's female-led, right? So they better get used to it. They better get over it. Black men are going to vote, the other side, or they're going to sit it out. Because the Democrat Party offers nothing for black men. Nothing. Nothing at all. You think black men in L.A. not concerned about homelessness? You think they're not concerned with a lot of black men on the street? I mean, come on now. The day is gone where y'all can shame black men into voting Democrat. That day is done. Myself and many others are beating that drumbeat to let those men know you don't have to be ashamed for crap. All they want to do is use you for votes, use you for money, and don't even tend to anything that you got going on. And the women even waking up to that. Because I always say, where the men go, eventually the women gonna come. Eventually. It may not be today, but eventually. More and more women have woke up to that black church. More and more women say, I'm cool on that. Say, I believe in God. I love God. I read my Bible. I pray, but I can't go over there. No. The black church don't do nothing for the black community. But you blaming Ice Cube, this woman saying Uncle Luke and saying Hoteps. You can call her whatever name you want to call. The fact is, the Democrat Party does nothing for black people. Black men recognize this for sure. And we're moving with our feet. That's just it. You don't own the black vote. You don't own the black male vote. You don't own it, Democrats. So get used to it. Why don't you go and ask all them illegal immigrants that you're flooding in this country? Go ask them to vote for you. Recently, there was a story Sister Demetria had came out with, talking about Asians saying that the Democrats don't do enough for them, and the Democrats then bent over backwards for them. Hell, if the Democrats would have done for us what they done for the Asians, black folks would be okay, at least a little bit right now with them. But no, they demonize black Americans, particularly black men, and use homeless people who have clear mental health issues in certain cities like New York, San Francisco, L.A. It was a certain cities they was using this propaganda out of, because there's Asian people all day long here in Houston. Nobody even bother them. I know, everybody know where they live. Nobody bother no Asian people like that. And the real perpetrators of Asian hate is white folks, and you never show them. But I'm going to do a whole story on that too, because they lied on black folks, and it was the Democrat Party and the liberal media that set up there and pushed that propaganda and plastered black men who were homeless and had mental health issues. And a lot of them weren't even black Americans. A lot of them were immigrants that did that. You understand what I'm saying? So we supposed to go and vote for that party that propagandize black men and try to make us the face of attacking Asian people? Hell no. Hell no. Because Asian people was talking about crimes against them before Biden got in office, during Trump. How all of a sudden it switched from, because they'll blame the Trump people, right? It's these Trump people doing this to us. And all of a sudden when Biden gets in office, now it's all of a sudden black men, and the Trump people not doing nothing no more. They mysteriously had an epiphany about Asians all of a sudden. I'm sorry. No, they propagandized with CNN and MSNBC against black men, making black men the face of something again. Doing another thing, what's his name? Willie Horton. That sort of thing. Nah, we good. We good. Black men, vote in your interest. Vote in your interest. If nobody got your interest, sit it out. If you want to be vote against the Democrats out of spite, do that too. Either or. I support either way. I support either way for all black people, actually. Spite vote. You vote out of spite Republican, or you can sit it out. Either way, you're not giving them a vote. Forget them. Forget them. They don't own no black vote. If you own something, you do something for your people. You do something for your people. That'd be like what the Democrats do would be like me abandoning all of you, because the majority of my followers and listeners are black globally, but definitely in the U.S., majority of them black. And I don't never speak about black issues ever again, but I'm talking about immigration. I'm talking about, what white people concerned about. I'm talking about what Arabs. I'm talking about everybody else. And I just neglect you. That's it. But I expect you to still keep watching me, and I get pissed off if you start not watching me anymore because I'm neglecting you. See, you would stop watching me if I neglected you. But so why not you don't do that for the Democrat Party? They have neglected you. Walk away and go somewhere who is going to, or if I don't have no ties to no political parties, but because, black people, they just think, like I say, white Jesus and Democrat is a religion in this community. Horrible ideology, but we haven't really never had no one call that out like we have it today, right? It was just something that black people did. It just white Jesus and Democrat, just period. But a lot of that has changed. So with that being said, it's a new day, Democrats. You could lie. You could try to shame. All of that. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I hope black men in L.A. come out in mass and vote for Caruso. I hope he do. I hope they do, because I love to see the articles about that. I would love it. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure you click the like button. It's very important. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you are helping us to definitely inform more people that the podcasts are available. If you are interested in definitely contributing to the channel, you can join our memberships, or we definitely for one time donations, you can put the Cash App. We put that up there, and we know you can go listen to many podcasts all over the internet. And but you came here and listened to ours, and we greatly appreciate it. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.